let's try to end today's show on a fun note. So CPAC is going on. Donald Trump made a speech. Aaron Rupert, who's apparently is employed to make these kinds of video threads, made a video thread with some fun highlights, and I want to go into these just because some of them are pretty interesting. So here's a really funny one. Let's just go into it.
We love Ronnie.
Like, I just want to say, like, so I don't know much about this Ronnie Jackson fella, but this is just a really funny clip. So he's like in the crowd going like this, and everyone's cheering. And then but listen to this story.
Ronnie. We love Ronnie. He said President Trump is the healthiest president in history. If he didn't eat junk food, he'd live for 200 years. That got us into a lot of trouble, right, Ronnie? That statement got us into trouble, but that's okay. We all love you, Ronnie. Thank you. Great job.
I can't with this shit, man. I can't. Okay. But there's more. So he brings up Zelenskyy going on about his impeachment, lying about it. I just want to remind everyone that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. He lost. Joe Biden won the 2020 election. That's why Joe Biden is in the Oval Office. Donald Trump is a loser and a liar. But he goes into his first impeachment when he got impeached for a, quote, perfect phone call with Volodymyr Zelenskyy. And let's go on.
Like Adam Shifty Schiff. Where do you meet people like this? He actually made up a story about my phone call with the president of Ukraine, who, by the way, is a brave man. He's hanging in. He's a brave man. And I like him because, you know, during that ridiculous impeachment waste of time, and the Republicans stood by us, we were 196-0. When did you ever hear Republicans do that? But this was truly a scam. But the president of Ukraine said he did nothing wrong. He could have said he did something, or he thought, well, I wasn't appropriate, you know, all the crap you have to listen to.
I just want to say Donald Trump's like this is a stand-up. He does, like, he makes his speeches fucking stand-up. Like, it's just like when he does the impressions, I'm into it. But again, just relitigating. Of course, everything's got to be about Donald Trump. You know, Zelenskyy is literally like you know, standing up for his country, and is trying to avoid international assassins, right? And his country is being invaded by Russia, one of the superpowers of the world. And how are we going to discuss this major topic? Well, I'm going to talk about my impeachment hoax. Right?
Well, I wasn't appropriate, you know, all the crap you have to listen to, right? He said he did absolutely I called him up to congratulate him on his victory. He said he did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. I'm glad that tape was going. Those transcribers were writing during that call, because otherwise it could have been. But this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with some people that are truly evil, truly bad people.
So again, Russia has invaded Ukraine. Zelenskyy is probably going to be killed at some point in the next month, right? If Putin has a say about it. And Donald Trump is trying to toe a line. Donald Trump, immediately upon reading the news of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, praised Putin, called him very smart, very savvy, very smart. But he also said that it wouldn't have happened under him. Now, I can presume that would have been because Trump one of his projects was destabilizing NATO. And, you know, he probably wouldn't have even, you know, like the whole response from the West, NATO, and the whole world to Russia on this probably would have been different, though I do think Ukraine would have still put up a fight, and I do think Russia would still have invaded. But again, he's trying to make every possible positive spin about himself, even though they directly contradict each other. But let's keep going.
American history, and put them together.
This one I don't care about. Yeah, I don't care about these. Okay.
Ukraine is appalling. It's an outrage and an atrocity that should never have been allowed to occur. It never would have occurred. We are praying for the proud people of Ukraine. God bless them all. God bless them all.
Now notice that not everyone in the crowd is excited for that. I wonder why. Now again, he's posturing. He's trying to be pro-Putin and pro-Zelenskyy at the same time. Like, he's going on one show talking about how Putin's very smart, very smart. He loves Putin. He's a great man. And then he's talking about how Zelensky's also really cool. Huh? Like, but, you know, he doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to make sense, right? Because the people that follow him are dumb enough to buy whatever version that makes the most sense to them. Look at that guy. He's like,
thank you. They are indeed brave. As everyone understands, this horrific disaster would never have happened if our election was not rigged and if I was the president. Very simple. It wouldn't have happened.
Again, Donald Trump lost the
Under
2020
Bush,
election.
Russia invaded Georgia. Under Obama, Russia took Crimea. Under Biden, Russia invaded Ukraine. I stand as the only president of the 21st century on whose watch Russia did not invade another country.
Again, Donald Trump was assisting Putin a lot during his time in the White House. Let's be honest. Let's be real. Let's be honest. And when Putin invades right after Trump leaves office, like, Putin was probably hoping that Trump would win a second term and that Trump would destabilize NATO so that there would be no response. Whoops, that didn't end up happening, but he planned on invading anyway, right? So again, there's no reason at all to believe that, Putin wouldn't have invaded if Trump had won a second term in office. But guess what? Trump didn't win a second term in office. He lost. He lost the 2020 election. Joe Biden won. Let's keep going.
Me if I thought Yesterday, reporters asked me if I thought President Putin was smart. I said, of course he's smart, to which I was greeted with, oh, that's such a terrible thing to say. I'd like to tell the truth. Yes, he's smart. The NATO nations, and indeed the world, as he looks over what's happening strategically with no repercussions or threats whatsoever, they're not so smart. They're looking the opposite of smart. If you take over Ukraine, we're going to sanction you, they say. Sanction? Well, that's a pretty weak statement.
So is Trump saying the U.S. should go to war with Russia? Okay, so Putin's smart, right? I love Zelenskyy, right? Sanctions are not good, so we should do what? And what is he advocating for?
Putin is saying, oh, they're going to sanction me. They sanctioned me for the last 25 years. You mean I can take over a whole country and they're going to sanction me?
Now he's doing another fucking stand-up bit.
Sanction me? You mean they're not going to blow us to pieces, at least psychologically? The problem is not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart, but the real problem is that our leaders are dumb. Dumb. So dumb.
That's gonna be a sound drop, I can tell you. So again, let's keep going on this.
But with respect to what's going on now, it would have been so easy for me to stop this travesty from happening. He understood me, and he understood that I didn't play games. This would not have happened. Someday I'll tell you exactly what we talked about. But we talked about it, and he did.
Okay, so what he's saying here, someday I'll tell you what we talked about, comma, but we talked about it. Talked about what? Him invading Ukraine?
What we talked about. But we talked about it. And he did have an affinity, there's no question about it, for Ukraine.
So you talked about his affinity for Ukraine, told the translator to destroy all the notes and to get the fuck out of the rooms, had a secret meeting with Putin, talking about his affinity for Ukraine. What?
I said, never let it happen. You better not let it happen. This is the only attack.
That's the other thing. Okay, so Trump says, don't let it happen. Let it happen. As if it's like a fucking tsunami or something, and we have a giant shield, and it's just all you have to do is press the shield and then the tsunami doesn't happen. It's a weather event. Don't let it happen. No, don't let it happen. I know you want it to happen, But don't let it happen. What do you mean? Let it happen? Like again, this is implying that Putin has had an affinity for Ukraine for a long time. Again, Putin wants to resurrect the Russian Empire. He wants to say, fuck all that workers' bullshit that was going on in the 20th century. We're gonna wind the clock back to the fucking 19th century up in this bitch. He wants to be the next emperor. He wants to be the next czar. He's going for an empire. And that's what Donald Trump is accidentally kind of saying here. I mean, is it an accident?
Back in history where the further he goes and the bigger it gets and the worse it gets and the more death that's caused, the more...
So anyway, I don't know what he's trying to straddle a line here that's really weird. Doesn't really make sense, but you know. I mean, you have to think about it this way though. Zelenskyy has pretty much become everything Trump and Putin have like tried to pretend to be in this moment. Like a week ago, like not many people knew who Zelenskyy was. And now like pretty much the entire international community recognizes this guy's a badass motherfucker. And like he is like the example of like, you know, the tough male leader that Trump and Putin so desperately want to be. So that's why I feel like Trump is praising Zelenskyy. He's going to try to ride that clout if he can. But it doesn't make any sense. It's weird. But you know, there you go.